A billionaire's arranged marriage takes an unexpected turn when he discovers his bride isn't who he thought she was. Sebastian Hartwell, 29-year-old tech billionaire, is forced into an arranged marriage by his ruthless father to secure the family empire. Luna Rosewood, a struggling farmer's daughter, agrees to the marriage to save her family from bankruptcy. Neither expects love, but what they find on their wedding night changes everything. Hello, beautiful souls. Tonight's story will take you on a journey where hearts are tested and destinies collide. So let's begin this tale together. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sebastian Hartwell's penthouse office like bullets against armor. At 29, he controlled a tech empire that most men twice his age could only dream of. Yet the storm outside seemed to mirror the tempest brewing in his chest. "You have 1 month," his father's voice cut through the silence like shattered glass. Richard Hartwell sat across from him, silver hair perfectly styled despite the weather, gray eyes cold as winter steel. "Marry the Rosewood girl, or lose everything you've built." Sebastian's fingers tightened around his whiskey glass until his knuckles went white. The amber liquid trembled from the force of his grip. "This isn't the 19th century, father. You can't just sell me off like cattle. Watch me." Richard placed a thick legal document on the mahogany desk between them. 40% of your company's shares sit in the family trust. Continue this path of isolation, and I'll vote to remove you as CEO. Marry Luna Rosewood, and those shares transferred to you on your 30th birthday. The name hung in the air like smoke. Luna Rosewood. Sebastian had never heard it before tonight. Yet apparently, this stranger held his entire future in her hands. "What do you know about her?" Sebastian asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "She's plain, quiet. Spends her time with books and paintbrushes." Richard waved his hand dismissively. "Her family's farm is drowning in debt. This arrangement saves them from bankruptcy and secures your legacy. It's perfect." Sebastian stood and walked to the window, watching the city lights blur through the rain-streaked glass. His reflection stared back at him, all sharp angles and hollow eyes. At 12, when his mother had abandoned them with nothing but a cold goodbye note, he'd learned that love was a luxury he couldn't afford. His father had reinforced that lesson daily, teaching him that power and profit were the only currencies that mattered. But this felt different. This felt like selling his soul. "And if I refuse, then by next month, you'll be just another failed entrepreneur watching someone else run the empire you built." Richard's smile was razor sharp. "Your choice, Sebastian, marriage or ruin." The door clicked shut behind his father, leaving Sebastian alone with the storm and his thoughts. He pressed his palm against the cold glass, feeling the vibration of thunder through the building's steel frame. 300 miles away, in a farmhouse kitchen, where the roof leaked and the floorboards creaked, Luna Rosewood sat across from a city lawyer who looked as uncomfortable as she felt. Her mother's hand found hers on the worn wooden table, both of their palms rough from years of hard work. "Miss Rosewood," the lawyer said carefully, "the Hartwell family is prepared to pay off all your debts and provide a substantial settlement in exchange for your agreement to marry Sebastian Hartwell." Luna's heart hammered against her ribs. The numbers he'd mentioned would save everything. The farm, her mother's future, her own dreams of art school that had seemed impossible until this moment. "What kind of man agrees to marry someone he's never met?" she whispered. The lawyer adjusted his tie nervously. "Mr. Hartwell sees marriage as a business arrangement. He's assured his father he'll treat you with respect and provide well for you." Respect, provide. The words sounded clinical, lifeless. Luna looked out the window at their dying fields, at the barn that needed repairs they couldn't afford. "Mother worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table, and the bank's patience was running out. How much time do I have to decide? 24 hours? After the lawyer left, Luna sat in her small bedroom, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror above her dresser. Chestnut hair that caught sunlight like copper, green eyes that her father had once said held all the colors of spring. But she'd learned long ago that in a world obsessed with perfection, girls like her were invisible. She picked up her paintbrush and touched it to a half-finished canvas, a landscape of rolling hills under a vast sky. In her painting, the world was beautiful and free. In reality, Beauty was a luxury they couldn't afford, and freedom was something she was about to sell. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I assume you've heard about the arrangement. We should meet before making this decision final. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Rosewood Cafe on 5th Street. S. Hartwell. Luna stared at the message until the words blurred together. Tomorrow, she would meet the man who might become her husband, stranger, who saw her as a business transaction, a billionaire who lived in a world she couldn't even imagine. Her hands shook as she typed back, I'll be there. Outside, thunder rolled across the hills like a promise of the storm to come. The Rosewood Cafe buzzed with afternoon chatter, the scent of fresh coffee and vanilla pastries filling the air like a warm embrace. Luna sat in the corner booth, her hands wrapped around a lukewarm mug. Watching the door with the nervous energy of a caged bird, she'd chosen her best dress, a simple navy blue piece that had belonged to her mother, and braided her hair into a neat crown. But surrounded by the cafe's polished clientele, she felt like a wildflower trying to bloom in concrete. The door chimed, and time seemed to slow. Sebastian Hartwell stepped inside, and Luna's breath caught in her throat. He was nothing like she'd expected. Tall and lean, with dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her family made in 6 months. But it was his eyes that stopped her cold, as dark as midnight and twice as haunted. They swept the room with the calculated precision of a predator. When his gaze found hers, something electric shot through the air between them. Recognition without introduction. Two souls recognizing their shared damage. He approached her table with measured steps, and Luna noticed the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw was set like he was preparing for battle. Luna Rosewood, or his voice was rougher then. She'd expected, with an edge that spoke of sleepless nights and buried pain. Mr. Hartwell. She gestured to the seat across from her with a hand that barely trembled. Thank you for coming. He slid into the booth, and she caught a hint of his cologne. Something expensive and masculine that made her pulse quicken despite herself. This close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, evidence of stress and responsibility carried. Too young. Let's skip the pleasantries, he said, his tone all business. We both know why we're here. My father wants a wife who won't interfere with his plans. Your family needs money. It's a simple transaction. Luna felt heat rise in her cheeks. A transaction. Is that what you think marriage is, isn't it? Sebastian leaned back, studying her with those dark eyes. Love is a fairy tale, Miss Rosewood.
Ow.
I learned that lesson early. This arrangement benefits us both without the mésalliances of false emotions. False emotions. Luna's voice was barely above a whisper. Is that what you call caring about someone? Something flickered across Sebastian's face, gone so quickly she almost missed it. Vulnerability, maybe, a pain. I call it a weakness, he said, but the words sounded rehearsed. My mother taught me that lesson when she walked away without looking back. The admission hung between them like a bridge neither wanted to cross. Luna saw past the expensive suit and commanding presence to the 12-year-old boy who'd been abandoned by the person who should have loved him most. My father died when I was 20, she said quietly. He taught me that love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes us brave enough to keep going when everything else falls apart. Sebastian's eyes narrowed. Pretty words, but they won't. Save your farm. No, Luna agreed, meeting his stare without flinching. But they might save us. Us. His laugh was bitter. There is no us, Miss Rosewood.
Yes.
There's a contract, a legal obligation, and 2 people who happen to share the same address. Nothing more? Luna leaned forward, close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. Then why are you shaking? Sebastian looked down at his hands, surprised to find she was right. The tremor was slight but unmistakable. I don't shake, he said, but the voice had lost its cold edge. Everyone shakes sometimes, Luna replied. The question is, what scares you more, marrying me or admitting you might actually feel something about it? The silence stretched between them, loaded with tension and unspoken truths. Sebastian's mask was slipping, and Luna could see the man. Beneath the armor, broken, lonely, and fighting desperately to stay numb. "If we do this," he said finally, his voice rough with something that might have been hope, "there will be rules. Boundaries. This stays professional." Of course, Luna's smile was sad. "Heaven forbid we accidentally care about each other." Sebastian stood abruptly, pulling out his wallet. "The wedding is in 3 days. My assistant will handle the details. You'll move into my penthouse afterward." He placed a business card on the table, his fingers brushing hers for the briefest moment. The contact sent warmth shooting up Luna's arm, and she saw his eyes widen slightly, as if he'd felt it too. 3 days, Luna repeated, picking up the card. It was heavy, expensive, like everything else in his world. And then what? Sebastian paused at the edge of their booth, looking back at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Then we find out if two broken people can coexist without destroying each other." He walked away without another word, leaving Luna alone with the lingering scent of his cologne and the weight of a decision that would change both their lives forever. Outside, Sebastian sat in his car for 10 minutes before starting the engine. His hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles went white. He'd expected plain, quiet, forgettable. Instead, he'd found a woman with eyes like emeralds and a voice that made his chest tighten in ways he'd forgotten were possible. This was supposed to be simple. A business arrangement with no complications. But as he drove away, all he could think about was the way Luna had looked at him, not with fear or calculation, but with something that looked dangerously like understanding. 3 days. In 3 days, he would marry a stranger who somehow felt like the most familiar person he'd ever met. The courthouse ceremony lasted exactly 12 minutes. Luna wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit her smaller frame, while Sebastian stood beside her in a black suit that cost more than most people's cars. They exchanged rings and vows with the mechanical precision of strangers reading from a script. But when the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Sebastian's hand lingered on hers just a moment too long, his thumb tracing her wedding band with unexpected gentleness. Now, 3 hours later, Luna stood in the center of Sebastian's penthouse, her small suitcase looking lost in the vast space of marble and glass. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, but the apartment felt as cold and empty as a museum. "The guest room is down the hall," Sebastian said, loosening his tie. "You'll have your own space, your own bathroom. Won't need to see each other unless it's for appearances." Luna nodded, clutching her suitcase handle like a lifeline. "Of course, business arrangement, right?" "Right." But Sebastian's eyes lingered on her face, taking in the way the city lights painted golden streaks across her skin. In the courthouse, surrounded by fluorescent lighting and legal documents, she'd look like exactly what his father had promised: plain, unremarkable, convenient. Here, in the soft glow of his living room, she looked like something else entirely. Beautiful, in a way that crept up on you slowly like sunrise. "I should let you settle in," he said, backing toward his own room. "Good night, Mrs. Hartwell." The name sent a shiver down Luna's spine. Mrs. Hartwell. She was married to a man she barely knew, standing in a home that felt nothing like home, carrying his name like a costume that didn't quite fit. "Sebastian!" she called as he reached his door. He turned, and for a moment, his carefully constructed mask slipped. She saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes, loneliness in the set of his shoulders. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for saving my family. Whatever this is between us, I want you to know I'm grateful." Something flickered across his face, pain maybe, or regret. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "You might change your mind." His door closed with a soft click, leaving Luna alone in the cavernous space. She explored her assigned room, finding it as impersonal as a hotel suite. Expensive furniture, neutral colors, nothing that spoke of warmth or personality. She unpacked her few belongings, hanging her 3 dresses in a closet meant for 100. Her art supplies looked pitiful on the massive desk, but she arranged them carefully anyway, creating a small corner that felt like her. Around midnight, she heard movement in the kitchen. Padding barefoot across the marble floors, she found Sebastian standing at the window with a glass of whiskey. still wearing his wedding suit, but with the jacket discarded and sleeves rolled up. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked softly. He didn't turn around. "I don't sleep much. Occupational hazard of running an empire. Or of carrying too much pain," Luna said, moving to stand beside him at the window. Sebastian's grip tightened. On his glass? "You don't know anything about me? I know you were 12 when your mother left. I know your father taught you that emotions were weaknesses. I know you've built walls so high you can't remember what it feels like to let someone in." His laugh was harsh. "Quite the psychoanalyst, aren't you?" "I'm an artist. I see things." Luna's reflection in the window looked ghostly, insubstantial. "Want to know what I see when I look at you? Enlighten me?" A man who's forgotten he's allowed to be human. Sebastian finally turned to face her, and Luna's breath caught. It was close. She could see the storm in his dark eyes, the way his chest rose and fell with controlled breathing. "Humanity is a luxury I can't afford," he said, but his voice had lost its edge. "Maybe that's the problem." Luna reached up to touch his face, her fingers barely grazing his cheek before he caught her wrist. "Don't," he whispered, but he didn't let go. "Why?" "Because you might feel something. Because I might hurt you." The admission came out raw, honest. "I don't know how to be gentle, Luna. I don't know how to care about someone without destroying them." Luna's heart clenched at the pain in his voice. "Maybe it's time to learn." They stood frozen in that moment, his hand wrapped around her wrist, her pulse beating against his thumb. The city sparkled below them, but neither noticed anything beyond the magnetic pull drawing them together. Sebastian's control cracked first. His free hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her bottom lip with reverent precision. Luna's eyes fluttered closed at the contact, and she heard his sharp intake of breath. "Luna?" He said her name like a prayer and a curse rolled into one. "I'm your wife," she whispered. "In every way that matters." The last of his resistance crumbled. Sebastian's mouth found hers in a kiss that was nothing like the chaste peck they'd shared at the courthouse. Iswasa, desperate, hungry, months-long period of loneliness and years of isolation pouring out in a single moment of connection. Luna kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. She tasted whiskey and wine titted in his lips, felt the tremor in his hands as they tangled in her hair. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Sebastian rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed as if he was trying to memorize. "The moment this changes things," he said, "I know. The rules, the boundaries, were always going to be broken." Luna's smile was soft, understanding. "The question is, are you brave enough to let them?" Sebastian's answer was another kiss, softer this time, but no less profound. When he lifted her in his arms and carried her toward his bedroom, Luna didn't protest. When he set her down beside his bed and looked at her with such raw vulnerability that it took her breath away, she knew they'd crossed a line there was no coming back from. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice rough with want and uncertainty. Luna reached up to undo the buttons of his shirt, her fingers steady, despite the way her heart was racing. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." What happened? Next was tender and fierce, desperate and gentle. Two damaged souls finding healing in each other's arms. And when Luna woke the next morning, wrapped in Sebastian's embrace, sunlight streaming through the windows and his face peaceful in sleep, she knew their business arrangement had become something else entirely, like something that looked dangerously like love. 3 weeks of marriage had transformed Sebastian's cold penthouse into something that almost resembled a home. Luna's paintings brightened the walls, her books cluttered the coffee table, and her laughter filled spaces that had known only silence for years. Sebastian found himself rushing home from meetings, inventing reasons to work from the penthouse just to be near her. He'd catch himself watching her paint, mesmerized by the way she brought life to blank canvases with the same gentle touch she used on his guarded heart. But paradise has a way of revealing its flaws when you least expect it. Sebastian's phone rang during breakfast, Richard's name flashing on the screen like a warning. Luna looked up from her coffee, reading the tension that immediately seized Sebastian's shoulders. "Father," Sebastian answered, his voice carefully neutral. "Sebastian, my boy, how's married life treating you?" "Fine." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" Richard's laughter was cold as winter wind. Can't a father check on his son's happiness? I trust your little wife is proving satisfactory. Luna's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. Something in Richard's tone made her skin crawl. Luna is perfect, Sebastian said, his free hand finding hers across the table. Better than I deserved. Oh, she is, isn't she? Richard's voice took on a silky quality that made Sebastian's blood run cold. So much more beautiful than we were led to believe. Tell me, Sebastian, when did you first realize your bride wasn't quite what we'd been promised?
Ow.
The words hit like physical blows. Sebastian's face went white, his grip on Luna's hand tightening unconsciously. What are you talking about? Come. Now, son, did you really think I wouldn't investigate? The Luna Rosewood I arranged for you to marry was plain, bookish, utterly unremarkable. The woman living in your penthouse is quite the stunning little actress, isn't she? Luna felt the blood drain from her face. The coffee cup slipped from her nerveless fingers, shattering against the marble floor. I don't understand, Sebastian said, but his voice was hollow, already accepting the truth he didn't want to believe. Your wife's real name is Luna Catherine Rosewood Blackwood. She's the daughter of Victoria Blackwood, the supermodel who destroyed my business partnership with Jonathan Blackwood 15 years ago. It's the same woman who seduced my best friend and stole half my company's patents. Luna stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Sebastian, let me explain, but Sebastian was already moving away from her. The phone still pressed to his ear as Richard continued his poisonous revelations. She's been planted in your life, Sebastian. Whole arrangement, the debt, the failing farm, it's all been orchestrated. The Blackwood family wants their revenge, and they're using their beautiful daughter to get it. That's not true, Luna whispered, but her voice carried no conviction. Too many pieces were falling into place, creating a picture she couldn't deny. Sebastian ended the call and turned to face her, his eyes like winter storms. The warmth, the tenderness, the love she'd seen growing there over the past 3 weeks had vanished, replaced by the cold calculation she remembered from their first meeting. How long? His voice was deadly quiet. Sebastian, please, just listen to me. How long have you been lying to me? Luna's hand shook as she reached for him, but he stepped back as if her touch would burn him. I never lied about loving you, she said desperately. Everything between us has been real. Real? Sebastian's laugh was like broken glass. Which part was real, Luna? It's a sob story about your poor farming family? The debt that conveniently forced you into my arms? Or maybe the shy, innocent act you put on so perfectly? The debt is real, the farm is real, my feelings for you are real. Tears streamed down her face, but Sebastian's expression remained granite hard. Yes, my mother is Victoria Blackwood. Yes, she knew about the arrangement. But I didn't know about the history between our families until after we were married. When did you find out? Luna's silence was answer enough. A week ago, she whispered. She called me a week ago and told me everything. Sebastian's control snapped. He swept the breakfast dishes off the table, sending them crashing to the floor in a symphony of destruction. A week ago. So you've known for a week that this whole marriage was your family's revenge plot and you said nothing? Because it stopped being about revenge the moment I fell in love with you. Luna's voice broke on the words. Yes, my mother arranged this. Yes, she wanted me to destroy you from the inside. But I chose you, Sebastian. I chose us. See, spat the word like poison. There is no us. There never was. You're just a very talented actress collecting your family's pound of flesh. That's not true, and you know it. Luna stepped toward him, desperate to reach the man she'd glimpsed. Beneath his armor, he felt it too, Sebastian. What happened between us? The connection, the way you looked at me last night, like I was the most precious thing in your world. That wasn't fake, wasn't it? Sebastian's smile was cruel. How do I know anything you've shown me was real? The shy smiles, the gentle touches, the way you whispered my name in the dark. Was all of it just part of the performance? Luna's heart shattered at the pain beneath his anger. She could see the 12-year-old boy who'd been abandoned. The man who'd learned that everyone he trusted would eventually betray him. Look at me, she pleaded. Really look at me, Sebastian. Look past the hurt and the anger and tell me you don't see the truth in my eyes." For a moment, his mask slipped. She saw longing there, hope warring with desperation. But then he turned away, his shoulders rigid with renewed resolve. "I see what I've always seen," he said quietly. "A beautiful woman who knows exactly how to use that beauty to get what she wants." "And what is it I want?" Luna's voice was barely a whisper. Sebastian walked to the window, putting the width of the room between them. "To complete your mother's revenge. To watch the great Sebastian Hartwell fall in love with his own destruction." "I want you," Luna said, the words torn from her soul. "I want the man who carries coffee to me in bed every morning. I want the one who works late into the night but always makes time to ask about my paintings. I want the Sebastian who kisses me like I'm the air he needs to breathe. That man doesn't exist," Sebastian said without turning around. "He was just another illusion you created." Luna stared at his back, at the rigid line of his shoulders, and felt something break inside her chest, not her heart. That had already shattered. This was deeper. This was the death of hope. "Fine," she said, her voice empty of everything except exhaustion. "If that's what you believe, then there's nothing left to say." She walked toward the door, pausing only when Sebastian's reflection appeared in the window beside his own. "For what it's worth," she said to his reflection, "I would have chosen you anyway. Even knowing what I know now about the pain, about how this would end, I would have chosen you every single time." The door closed behind her with the finality of a coffin lid. Sebastian stood alone in the wreckage of their breakfast, surrounded by broken china and shattered dreams, and wondered why victory felt so much like dying. Luna packed her single suitcase with the same careful precision she'd used to unpack it a month ago. Her art supplies went into their worn case. Her few dresses folded between tissue paper her mother had saved from more prosperous times. She left Sebastian's credit cards on the dresser, along with the expensive jewelry he'd bought her for various social functions. The only thing she kept was her wedding ring. She was sliding the last painting into a protective sleeve when she heard the front door slam. Sebastian's voice carried from the living room, sharp with authority as he barked orders into his phone. "I don't care what the board wants. The Morrison deal is off." "Yes, I know it cost us millions. I said it's off." Luna had learned to read the subtle variations in his anger over the past month. This wasn't the cold fury he'd shown her at breakfast. This was something deeper, more destructive. This was a man trying to burn down his own world before someone else could do it for him. She found him standing at the bar, a half-empty whiskey bottle beside him, and his phone in pieces on the floor. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie gone, and his hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. "Drinking away your problems?" she asked quietly. Sebastian didn't turn around. "Shouldn't you be gone by now? Mission accomplished, after all. I wanted to say goodbye." "Goodbye?" His voice was flat, emotionless. "There. Now leave." Luna approached him slowly, the way she might approach a wounded animal. "Sebastian, there's something you need to know before I go." "More lies. The truth. The whole truth this time." She took a shaky breath. "My mother did arrange our marriage as revenge, but not against you." Sebastian's hand stilled on his glass. "What, against your father?" Luna's voice was steady, despite the tremor in her hands. 15 years ago, Richard Hartwell seduced my mother to steal her husband's business secrets. When Jonathan Blackwood found out about the affair, it destroyed my parents' marriage and my father's company. Your father got rich off stolen patents, while my family fell apart." Sebastian finally turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "So you decided to destroy his son?" "No." Luna shook her head. "No. My mother decided to show him what it felt like to have his family torn apart by someone else's manipulation. She wanted him to watch you fall in love with me, then lose everything. When the truth came out, congratulations. It worked." "Did it?" Luna moved closer, close enough to see the pain he was trying so hard to hide. "Because from where I'm standing, the only person who's lost everything is me." Something flickered in Sebastian's eyes. "You got what you came for. Your family's debt is paid. The farm is saved. I got what my mother came for," Luna corrected. "What I came for was the man I fell in love with, and I'm about to lose him forever. You never had me to begin with, didn't I? Luna reached into her purse and pulled out a small wrapped package. I was going to give this to you tonight. It's our 1-month anniversary. Sebastian stared at the package like it might explode. Luna, open it, please. With trembling fingers, he unwrapped the small canvas. It was a painting of him, but not the cold businessman the world knew. This was Sebastian as Luna saw him, vulnerable, beautiful, caught in a moment of unguarded laughter. It was the most intimate portrait he'd ever seen of himself. When did you paint this?
Last week?
After I found out about our family's history, but before you knew I knew. Luna's voice was soft, vulnerable. I painted it because I realized I was going to lose you. I wanted to capture the Sebastian who belonged to me, even if it was only for a little while. Sebastian's grip tightened on the canvas. Why are you showing me this? Because I need you to understand something. Luna stepped close enough that he could feel the warmth of her skin, smelled the vanilla scent of her hair. I could have run the moment my mother told me the truth. I could have taken the money and disappeared. Instead, I stayed. I stayed because what I felt for you was worth more than revenge, worth more than money, worth more than anything else in this world. Luna. Right? Her name broke on his lips like a prayer. I know you don't trust me. I know you think this is all an elaborate lie. But answer me this. If I was acting, if everything between us was fake, why am I walking away empty-handed? Sebastian's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Luna smiled sadly. I'm giving up my claim to any of your assets. I've already signed. The papers? No alimony, no settlement, nothing. I'm leaving with exactly what I came with. A suitcase and a broken heart. You can't do that. The marriage contract says I'm entitled to half of everything we've acquired during our marriage. I'm walking away from millions, Sebastian. If this was all about money, don't you think I'd take what I could get? The silence stretched between them, loaded with everything they couldn't say. Sebastian set the painting on the bar with reverent care, his fingers tracing the edge of the frame. Why? He whispered. Because I love you. Because some things are worth more than revenge, or money, or pride. Luna reached up to touch his face, and this time he didn't pull away. Because you taught me what it means to be brave. Sebastian closed, his eyes leaning into her touch despite himself. I don't know how to trust you. I don't know how to trust anyone I know. And I can't promise I won't hurt you again, just like you can't promise you won't hurt me. But I can promise that whatever happens, my love for you is real. Luna. He opened his eyes and she saw everything there, the love he'd tried to deny, the fear that held him prisoner, the desperate hope he was afraid to embrace. I have to go, she said, though every word felt like tearing off pieces of her soul. My mother expects me back in California by tomorrow. But Sebastian, if you ever decide you're ready to risk believing in us again, you know where to find me. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and devastating. Sebastian kissed her back with desperate hunger, his arms pulling her close as if he could keep her there through sheer force of will. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard, tears mixing on their cheeks. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I love the man who brings me coffee in bed and works late into the night, but always asks about my paintings. I love your wounded heart and your brilliant mind, and the way you look at me like I'm something precious. Ow. I love all of you, Sebastian Hartwell, and I always will. She pulled away before he could respond, grabbed her suitcase, and walked toward the door. Sebastian stood frozen, watching the woman he loved prepare to leave forever. Luna, wait. She paused, her hand on the doorknob. Hope and heartbreak warring in her chest. Sebastian crossed the room in 3 quick strides, dropping to one knee as he reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. He said, his voice rough with emotion. The one person in my family who knew how to love without conditions. I bought it back from a collector last week because I wanted to give it to you properly, not as part of a business arrangement, but as a promise. Luna's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. I'm terrified, Sebastian continued. I'm terrified of trusting you, of believing in us, of letting myself love someone completely, but I'm more terrified of losing you. Of spending the rest of my life wondering what could have been if I'd been brave enough to take the risk. Sebastian? His name was a sob, a prayer, a promise all at once. Marry me, he said. Not because our fathers arranged it, not because of debts or revenge or family obligations. Marry me because you love me and I love you, and maybe that's enough. To overcome everything else? Luna dropped to her knees beside him, framing his face with her hands. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes. The emerald ring slid onto her finger like it had been waiting there all along, nestled beside her simple wedding band. Sebastian's arms came around her, holding her like she was the most precious thing in his world. I don't care about our families. History, he whispered into her hair. I don't care about the lies or the manipulation or any of it. All I care about is this, you and me and the life we can build together. What about your father, the company shares? Sebastian's smile was fierce, protective. Let him try to take them. No. I've got something worth fighting for now. They held each other in the wreckage of their broken breakfast dishes and shattered assumptions. Two damaged souls who'd found healing in each other's arms. Outside, the sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of hope and possibility. 6 months later, Luna stood in the same spot, but everything was different. The penthouse had been transformed into a real home, filled with her paintings and his books, plants that caught the morning light, and photos of stolen moments. Sebastian's arms wrapped around her from behind as they watched the sunrise paint. The city in gold? Any regrets? He asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Luna leaned back against his chest, her hands covering his where they rested on her growing belly. Their first child, conceived in love rather than arrangement, was due in the spring. Only one, she said, turning in his arms to face him. Sebastian's eyebrows rose in question. Regret that we wasted so much time being afraid of this. Answer was a kiss that tasted like forever, like second chances and hard-won trust. When they broke apart, both were smiling. I love you, Mrs. Hartwell. I love you too, Mr. Hartwell. Always. And